Hi, it's Rick Howe at the TV of Tomorrow show in San Francisco, and I'm here with Jon Giegengack, who happens to be one of my sponsors of Talk Back to Television. John, how are you?
Good, how you doing? You're not supposed to tell people that at the beginning, Rick.
You
I'm
know,
biased.
They're talking to you, they're not talking to me. Okay, you just came off a panel about artificial intelligence and entertainment.
Yeah.
Give us a quick summary of where you ended up with all that.
So I think, two things that we covered. One is that from the consumer side, your average TV viewer is aware that AI exists, but they don't, even the people that use it, don't really understand sort of the magnitude. It's like any big advancement in technology, it kind of solves problems that people don't know they have yet. So there's probably more fear and trepidation than there is excitement about it among consumers, and I think that'll change, but for the moment, people are worried about having AI-generated content that they can't distinguish from the real thing. They're worried about removing the artists from art and having some kind of soulless machine-generated content. And they're generally worried about loss of jobs. And so that's even something that people who think AI is going to be a good thing for society in general are also really concerned about those same problems.
But the general consumer isn't thinking that generative AI, the ability for somebody in their parents' basement close to Hollywood can create a movie. They're not worried about that stealing their jobs. They're worried about the broader automation of business and processes and all that.
I mean, to the extent they even know what might happen there. But they don't. They have a greater understanding, or at least a greater perception of the downsides than they do the upsides. But that's one reason why I thought this panel was so interesting, because each of those four guys comes to the question of AI applied to entertainment from a different point of view.
Yep.
And even just having the pre-call with those guys before we had the discussion, every single one of them had some application, some idea, some experience that people will have in the future that they don't have now, that even I, as a pretty prolific consumer of TV and movies, got me really excited. And I think that's I think part of an industry shift that I see in general, where even the big studios are starting to, they're still suing AI companies right and left, but there's also a greater embrace of the things that AI can do, and maybe even kind of creating new experiences that people can't have today that we can all get really excited about, and that will generate new streams of revenue for even legacy media companies through AI that they don't have access to today.
One of the things that they talked about in your panel was apparently a demonstration earlier this year in Hollywood about people putting themselves into a movie.
Yeah.
Now, as nuts as that seems, in point of fact, if I was watching an Indiana Jones movie and I wanted to replace Harrison Ford, who is my hero, by the way, another old guy who generally wears a hat, you notice I'm not. If I wanted to replace Harrison Ford with me, in a couple of 3 years, I'll probably be able to do that.
Yeah, well, you can
I'd be breaking 8,700 copyright rules, supposedly, but I'll be able to do that.
Well, they've already replaced Harrison Ford with like 32-year-old Harrison Ford.
Well, they didn't.
Yeah.
They de-aged him.
And a lot of people didn't. A lot of people were uneasy about that. And the same thing with The Irishman, where they de-aged Robert De Niro. A lot of people in the audience were uncomfortable with that. But that's the least of what I think AI is able to do. I mean, the thing that got maybe the example that got me the most excited from that panel was the one that Carlos talked about, that they demonstrated at AI on the lot, where the interactive movie, where people go into the movie theater, there's a QR code, you scan the QR code, and you can submit plot points or dialogue, and the AI model behind the scenes will compile them all, and then the characters on screen will act that out. And that blew my mind, because that's something, the reason that people don't go to the movies as much today is because they've got 75-inch TVs and surround sound systems at home, and they can stay at home rather than having to go out and park and walk and pay for the tickets. But what the movies really need is a reason to go there that you can't emulate at home, that thrives off of having a whole bunch of other people around. And that kind of experience is totally different from what the movies are like in the past. And I would, as a movie fan, I would embrace that. I'd be excited to do that.
Okay, so it's one thing for me to do that and watch myself on my phone or my computer. It's another thing for me to do that and have my family watch it on TV. It's insanely more important and more, I don't even know what the right word is, satisfying to put it on the big screen at a multiplex and have the entire audience, with my permission, watching me up there.
You couldn't, if you put a gun to my head, I don't think I would put myself up on the screen at a multiplex, but I really like the idea of contributing to the story where the story is interactive. You know, it's like that example I gave in the panel, like when I was a kid and I discovered Choose Your Own Adventure books, which is the most rudimentary kind of interactive entertainment you could have. Yeah. But still, that blew my mind. Like, you could have a different story every time, and you could find your way from place to place in the story. It would end a different way, different events would transpire, and you have somewhat, you have agency over which one of those things happen. This thing in the theater is that times 100, and it will be 100 times more fun. And it's something that you can't do at home with your 80-inch TV. You need to be around other people, and it's kind of a group effort, a group production that rises to the top. I mean, that sounds so cool to me.
It does. Now, one of the other things they talked about was AI created dialogue for movies. Now, as they were saying that, I'm remembering the very first Star Wars. AI could have done a lot better job than George Lucas did with some of that dialogue, Princess Leia in particular. But, I got a bad feeling about this. It was so bad that they repeated it in every single Star Wars movie after that. So there are times where AI-created content could improve over what humans are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could. That's one of the things that people are uncomfortable with, is taking the human artists out of the art.
Right.
But there's a million just kind of grunt work tasks that AI can do far better than people can. So just, for example, taking a movie and you want to send it to a different country, and you got to bring in voiceover artists and dub the whole thing, and it doesn't match up with the, like the old kung fu movies, like, you want to fight me, and like the lips move and don't match up with the words. But AI can take that, and you can do 50 movies in a week, where maybe you can only do one before, and the mouth will move, the voices will be right.
I did a show with a company just a couple of weeks ago who worked with a Swedish sci-fi film, and we talked about this. And they not only did the new dubbing, they got the actors back, they got the producer back, and with AI, they recreated the faces when they were talking, so the eyes and the face and the jaw and the lips and the emotion on the face matched what they were saying in English.
Yeah, and I think that's
just nuts, but it's right there.
And it's great, and that I think is an example of sort of low-hanging fruit, because it's not, it's not hurting.
Not scary.
It's not hurting the artists.
Yeah, in that case, they're participating and we're rewarded for their time creating
and that's an automobile replacing the horse kind of thing. And if you're the guy that puts the horseshoes on, then you're out of luck, I guess. But that's, technology moves on, industries move on, and again, the thing I really liked about this panel was that it made me understand, and hopefully the audience too, a lot more about what the upsides are. Instead of just focusing on the stick, I'm much more aware now of the different the carrots that are out there.
Now, consumers can get uneasy about seeing a de-aged Harrison Ford. I would think that those are the vocal minority in that case. Most people looked at that and said, well, the movie itself actually wasn't that good, but the fact that Harrison Ford played himself as a younger person on the train from the earlier time wasn't that big a deal. And is that what it comes down to from the consumers? That it's entertainment. Entertain me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that gets back to what Colin said, that people will watch AI content out of curiosity, but they'll only do that once, and then if it's not good, they won't come back. So there's still,
it's got to be a good story, and it's got to entertain them.
Yep, and it's got to be something that they can connect with, and who knows? I mean, we may get to the point. We probably will get to the point where AI can come up with a story that you'll engage with, but I think that having that quality content, and by quality I mean just like a cool story that you want to hear more about, or you identify with the characters, or you see something of yourself in the people on the screen. That I think that's a lot harder to automate, and whether that will ever be able to be automated in a way that people will watch for, more than 15 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, the best piece of AI generated content I've seen so far, and it was awesome, was this whole series of fake influencer videos where people are at, like the floating of the Ark or the building of the Great Wall of China, or there's one where these people are floating in a lifeboat and the Titanic's sinking behind them, and they're like, hey, it's the Baileys, or our vacation's not going so well. And that was awesome, but it also was 4 or 5 little 10-second clips, and I wouldn't have wanted to watch an hour and a half of that.
Nope.
I would have needed something more sort of I could sink my teeth into. But for that, it was super clever.
And if you were an advertiser, you'd attach your ad to that because it was clever. People enjoyed it. They probably shared it like crazy and watched it more than one time.
And a human wrote the prompts to create it, so it wasn't completely generated by we're not quite in the Matrix yet.
Not quite.
Yeah.
Not quite. Or maybe the Terminator.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to get that thing shoved in my neck, I'll be okay. I'll be okay with that.
All right. We are done, Jon Giegengack. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rick. Thank you.